Imagine boarding a flight and sitting next to the most dangerous man in America and having absolutely no idea. It was a Wednesday before Thanksgiving, 1971. Northwest Orient Flight 305 lifted off from Portland, Oregon, bound for Seattle. 36 passengers, a full crew, a routine 45-minute hop. Nobody expected anything unusual. Nobody had any reason to. But one man on that plane had already thought through every detail. He had chosen his seat carefully, the rear of the aircraft, away from other passengers. Imagine boarding a flight and sitting next to the most dangerous man in America and having absolutely no idea. It was a Wednesday before Thanksgiving, 1971. Northwest Orient Flight 305 lifted off from Portland, Oregon, bound for Seattle. 36 passengers, a full crew, a routine 45-minute hop. Nobody expected anything unusual. Nobody had any reason to. But one man on that plane had already thought through every detail. He had chosen his seat carefully, the rear of the aircraft, away from other passengers, close to the tail. He had ordered bourbon and soda. He had tipped the flight attendant. He was, by every account, calm, polite, almost forgettable. He wore a dark suit, a black clip-on tie, a white dress shirt, a pair of dark sunglasses. He called himself Dan Cooper, and what he did next would haunt American law enforcement for more than 50 years. Midway through the flight, he slipped a handwritten note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She assumed it was the usual thing, a lonely businessman trying his luck. She tucked it away without reading it. He leaned over and told her quietly, firmly, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." She looked. The note said he had a device capable of destroying the plane. His demands were simple, almost shockingly so. $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and the fuel truck waiting for them in Seattle. If those demands weren't met, everyone on board would die. The pilot radioed Seattle. Law enforcement scrambled. Airline executives huddled. The FBI was alerted. And while all of that happened 30,000 feet below, Dan Cooper sat calmly in row 18, sipping his drink, waiting. What the authorities decided next surprised nearly everyone. They agreed they would meet his demands. The plane circled Puget Sound for 2 hours while the money, 21 pounds of marked $20 bills, was assembled. Agents photographed every single note. They recorded each serial number. They handed over the cash in a knapsack. They provided the parachutes. They did everything he asked. The passengers were released in Seattle. And then, in a move that defied logic, defied fear, defied every instinct, Dan Cooper ordered the plane back into the air. He wanted to fly to Mexico City. He gave the crew very specific instructions. Fly low, no higher than 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down and the flaps partially extended. The plane would be slow, loud, and exposed to the freezing November sky. The crew complied. Somewhere over the dense, unforgiving wilderness of southwestern Washington state, in rain, in darkness, in temperatures that would kill an unprepared man in minutes, Dan Cooper strapped the money to his body, opened the rear air stair of the Boeing 727, and jumped. He vanished. Just like that. Into the night. Into the trees. Into one of the greatest mysteries this country has ever produced. The FBI launched one of the most extensive manhunts in American history. Agents combed hundreds of square miles of Pacific Northwest wilderness. Helicopters swept the forests. Ground teams worked the terrain. Military units joined the search. They found nothing. Not a footprint. Not a piece of fabric. Not a single marked bill. The man the press eventually called D.B. Cooper, a name born from a simple media mix-up, had for all practical purposes ceased to exist. He had stepped off the edge of the known world. Investigators built a profile. He clearly understood aircraft. He knew that the Boeing 727 was one of the only commercial jets with a rear air stair that could be opened in flight. He used military terminology when discussing parachutes. He was cool under pressure in a way that most people simply aren't. Some believed he was former special forces. Others thought military skydiver. Others said career criminal who had simply done his homework. The FBI interviewed hundreds of suspects over the decades. They developed leads that went cold. They chased stories that didn't hold up. They operated the case, officially designated NORJAC, for 45 years before finally suspending active investigation in 2016, citing a lack of credible leads and the passage of time. But the case never truly closed, not in the public imagination.